Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Align Mentor on this wonderful Sunday morning. It's nice, bright, and shiny out here in New Jersey. And today we're actually going to be talking about how you react and how you reflect. So, taking your reactions from reaction to reflection. And as we normally do, we'd like to start out with the definition. What is the definition of a reaction? It's the response to a stimulus. So, and what is reflection? Reflection is, how you look at it after the fact. It's like reflecting on what happened in looking at it and deeply thinking about what had actually happened and, could things have, and contemplating on how you could have potentially made changes for the better. So this happens in everyday life. So when you have in business, if you have a difficult customer in front of you, do you have why do huh
Yeah, did you lose?
interest well no it's just the way things are coming up on my screen. It's kind of weird. So sorry about that. And there's a good example. It's like, how am I reacting to the situation? um because things were not technically going very well. So, I had to take a step back, and once the call is over, I'll reflect on it. And there are many ways that in our lives with every single situation that we do, where are the positive things? And even if we are not having a good day, per se, how you react to the situation will result in how you can overcome it, how it becomes the way you want it to. So, how do you handle that? For a very good example, this past week, I had to travel down to North Carolina. My flight was supposed to leave at 8 o'clock on Monday night. We didn't leave till 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. So I missed being able to get my rental car. I'm late to get to my hotel because of what I needed was going to be for pretty much first thing in the morning. So when we got into, I had to fly into Raleigh. It was 3:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm waiting at the rental counter to get my car, and things transpired, and I literally was so frustrated that I had to take a literal step back because of the reactions I was having to that situation. And they were actually negative reactions. And I had the sense of mind that I actually stepped back. I literally stepped out of line and told the counter girl to actually take care of the other people while I figured it out. And I actually was able to settle myself so that I could respond. And, none of this was her fault. So why should I be taking it out on her? There was no reason for it. So I took myself literally out of the situation, got myself together. And by the time she finished up with those other customers, I was able to get back in line. We finished the transaction. I got my car and off to the hotel I went. So things like that. How do you respond to it? And this is where we're going to get into a lot of our key points on understanding things. And Tiny has a lot of great ways to actually bring us into this.
So first I want to talk about the situation. Sometimes when you're in the moment, you don't have the opportunity to step back and you have to handle it right then. But there are other situations where you have the opportunity to employ all of these techniques, step back and reassess what's going on. You cannot control the situation. You can only control how you handle it. So the more that you practice this methodology of ownership of yourself, the more when you're confronted with situations where you don't have maneuvering time, you're able to just automatically employ these techniques. So first is understanding that taking the emotion out of the situation is the first thing you need to do. And I know that that's very difficult. I could talk about some personal experiences here, and we've talked about this a lot about how the chemotherapy and radiation has affected my body and my body's responses to telling me when I need to use the restroom, and how there isn't a time frame that's very long in that, and sometimes I don't make it to the bathroom. And this used to really upset me. I mean, it's still upsetting, but learning how to take it for what it is and be turn it around, right? Like think about it. Okay, so we're having accidents when we're not in the proper spot. We could be in public, we could be wherever, but being prepared for that. Okay, so now we have assessed the situation because we've had to be able to do this situation more than once. So that helps with you being able to process it. So now there's the bag that comes with me with clean clothes and baby wipes and all of that, but also reframing your mind about how you want to handle it. Originally, it was, why is this happening to me? And now it is, I'm grateful to have this body, even if it doesn't function the way it used to function. I'm still grateful to have it. So looking at it a little bit more detached definitely helps. And there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can go about that. I'd like to talk about a couple of them right now. So we're talking about when you have the opportunity to reflect on it and you're not in a confrontational situation. We'll talk about that in a little while. So you can do meditation. You can step back and you can meditate for a few minutes. You can do breath work. You can do that lovely trait where everybody's like, go ahead and you stop and count to 10. That really works. Some other things that work, depending on who you are. Um, Crystals, pick a crystal up, hold it, meditate with the crystal. There are box flower essences. There is a whole host of meditations that you can find on YouTube, yoga, stretching, journaling, writing things out. These are some of the techniques that really can help you learn to look at the situation in a different manner. A very important one is when you're handling yourself during the day, if you're not properly hydrated and fueled with the correct foods, that can absolutely impact how you respond to situations. So a simple technique is making sure that you're hydrated, that you are receiving the vitamins and minerals that your body needs, and you're not going to quick fixes and that you've planned it out. And I know that sometimes that's not easy to do. Am I missing anything, Dan? Why can't I hear you?
Yeah, because I was unmuted or I was muted up. So, well, it's those are great points that Tanya brought in and things that you can do. There's techniques that she was talking about, and what is actually um, things that you should be reflecting on right now, because how do you react to the situations that you're in? And like Tanya was saying with her situation, she's now grateful for the body she has because of work that she's done for herself. But where are you? And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. It's like, how do you react? What kind of situations, what kind of triggers do you have and how do you deal with it? So how do you react to those triggers? So when it comes to a stressful situation, if you are out at a gathering, and whether it's for business or personal, family reunion, how do you react to a stressful situation being in a large group? Or if you're extroverted, how do you react to a stressful, because you don't want to be, you are cognizant of it, but you don't want to be that big boisterous person. And that's stressful for you to be much more reserved. How do you react to that situation? Or what about, kind of at night and you're walking out of a store and it's dark and the parking lot is dimly lit? And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. Females have a lot more to this than males do, but I've had my own personal experiences where I will actually grab my keys and walk with my keys in my hand at times, depending on the situation, because I've been in fights. I've had people come at me in parking lots. So while women do have the majority of the fear when it comes to a situation like that, and I do not downplay that by any means, males have it as well. And we need to remember that it is not segregated to just one gender. So fear is fear, and it's how you deal with it and how you react. And how do you get yourself over it? And then, there's uncertainties or past experiences that you've been involved with, like in a work setting or even family setting. Do you have somebody that's very passive aggressive with you in text messages while you're having a conversation? Do they get passive aggressive on topics that they don't know a lot about, but they want to make themselves as the most, they're very much more narcissistic in that approach, that they have to be the center of attention. You know, then, if they're feeling like they're being picked on, they play the victim role. Oh, when they actually started out doing the attack. So, or they make a mistake and then start blaming somebody else, that it was somebody else's fault, that somebody else should have had it. It's like, oh, you passed it off, and all the finger pointing and the victim, and all of that. So these are a lot of common triggers. And if you actually take a step, a mental step back, sometimes you may need to take that actual physical step back, not just the mental one, to get yourself ready. But what if you just agree with the person? We've talked about this a little bit before. Your reaction, because they're starting to come at you, take ownership of it. What happens when you take ownership of it? Everything stops. It stops everything right in its tracks. It's really interesting if you do it, how somebody's not ready for that. They're ready for a confrontation. They're ready to come back at you, and they're all defensive and want to take it to the next level and be more of the aggressor. But if you take all the wind out of their sails, now they have to backpedal themselves and figure out, oh, this is not how I planned on this going. But if you go back into it and think about the situation and visualize those situations beforehand, and you're working on them actively on how you would respond and how you can keep a level head. And as Tanya said, take those emotions out of it and keep that level down, because then when you're done and you can reflect on it, so you go in and you're at a very positive aspect, because if you agree with them, it's positive. So that's what is a great way to do. And it's all has to do with body language as well. So how do you incorporate that together? Practicing relaxation techniques. And I'm sure Tanya can give us in a minute, she can give us a couple of great examples, with some breathing techniques or some relaxation techniques. One thing that I'm going to touch on first is, how often do you do negative self-talk? How many times do you, oh, I'm so stupid because you forgot your keys? Well, is that really the truth of it? No, you're not stupid. You forgot. So why are you calling yourself stupid? Don't. This is the change in the mindset and how to react makes a huge difference, especially when you start to really put in all of your comments, all of your connotations, all of the situations you're in the conversation. It's a positive. Try to always make it that positive, and you'll see how the situation completely changes. And if you can help change somebody else's, they have to make the choice. But I'm sure Tanya wants to jump in with a couple of other techniques for the breathing exercises and some other body relaxation on how we can do that.
Sure, absolutely. So if I'm out and about, I do keep some tools in my pocketbook to help me. One of them is Rescue Remedy, which is a flower essence. I also keep a couple of crystals floating around the bottom of my bag and essential oils. Oh, the cat wants to say hello. Hi, Optimus. So essential oils in your bag that you can put on your there are necklaces or bracelets that you can wear that have the ability, they're porous, that you could just drop a little essential oil on it and go. Or just sitting in an area, turning the lights out, sitting down and just breathing. Yeah, again. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Count of four. Do that in sets of four, and it slows your body down and it allows you to relax. And it's beautiful. You can go onto YouTube, grab a meditation, and just type in meditation, and you can find hundreds of thousands of them. So you can select something that suits your personal need, or grab a notebook and just start writing what's going on. And that helps you reflect on what things that are important to you. Just write, just do like a dump writing, and then take a look at it and see what your subconscious is bringing forward, and that helps you reflect on what might be causing the emotion in those situations so that you can work on changing those emotions and removing whatever trauma that is associated with or whatever pain points that brings up. Um, or, when somebody is talking to you and your emotional response is immediate defense, maybe there's something about the way they're presenting that information that you immediately feel attacked for, and that's not what's happening. So you need to figure out what's going on with you that causes that immediate reaction. And by journaling, you can get a hint as to where that comes from so that you can work it out. Let's see what else talked about. And when you practice these techniques, and you do practice like actual practice, you do them daily or routinely, they start to become part of your world. And as you um, are introduced to the same or similar situations in the future, you can see how your reaction to it changes based on the fact that you were able to look at the situation and assess how you want to behave in that situation. And you did these mindful practices to bring you further towards that. Dan?
No, and those are really great ways to really center yourself, having something, if it doesn't matter what it is, but if it's a fidget spinner, if that's something that really works for you. I find myself with a pen a lot of times, kind of just twirling the pen in my fingers, or with it being a click pen. I can literally just click the pen, and it helps calm me. Or if you do like crystals and other objects like that, there are some of them that you can find that are called worry stones or palm stones. And if you saw Tanya a little bit earlier, I think she was actually playing with one a little bit, that was in her hand. She had it up in there, rubbing it around. And all you have to do, have it in your hand. So she carries hers in her pocketbook. Something small like that. You don't have to do anything large. It's finding what works for you. And there are other things that you may also need because of past experiences, depending on how severe they've been. What about support, your support network? Where are they? How often do you use them? These are other techniques. Do you have a confidant, your best friend, that you can go and literally just sit and chill and have a conversation with and tell them about the things that worry you without fear of any type of reprisal? And they're a great sounding board. Hopefully, your partner is that way, and they're on here too, working with us. That's why Tanya and I do this. We are each other's sounding board. We are our best friends. We work on these things together. So we carry the crystals together. I have mine. Mine are on my desk. I have mine in my office as well. I have some in my bag. I have a backpack where I carry my computer and laptop and other things with me. So that's my purse, if you will. I don't mind calling it that if you want to put that label on it. I don't label it. It's just a bag.
Man
So,
bag.
but man bag, sure. Yeah. But like I was saying, depending on your severity, you might not think you need it. But if you are that resistant to having and going and seeing a counselor because of that negative stigma, you probably truly do. And I'm not going to make that determination for you. And that's not any judgment. That is my personal opinion. I would think someone that is that resistant probably really has some work to do with themselves, and they have to be ready for that work. But I would really um, like you to reach out if that is the case. You know, I'm here willing to be your confidant. I am not going to talk to anybody else about it. You can DM me privately. You can get us off our socials, and we will gladly talk to you and help you out. But one of the things also, Tanya alluded to was a journal. Just start journaling. Do you have one? I have 5, 6 different notebooks, each having a topic. I write my goals in one, and that's all it's for. If I have I have one that's a general for notes and things and my battle plans on my daily stuff. I have my one for my calendar. I have one for this call. I make notes while we're having these conversations. So why not have a journal that's just sitting by your bed or down by your favorite chair or wherever? Go out and sit on the back stoop or porch or wherever and under a tree in the park. Grab a notebook and just start writing. It doesn't have to be about anything. It can just say blah, 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 blah. And you will find that eventually other words are going to come out and you will just be able to then go back to that and reflect on what you put down. And maybe those things will actually then become very helpful to you to work on the change and closing some of those painful chapters and be able to move on. And pain doesn't necessarily mean that, it's really, really deep. It's something that could have just bothered you. Deal with it and then put it away and move on and just let it wash under the bridge out. Like they say, water under the bridge. It's gone. When you step into the river, you're never going to step into the same river twice. And there's a reason, because the water keeps flowing. It's never the same river, ever. So be that way. Let those emotions go. They're a great thing to let go of. And you will find that will feel so much better. The other thing is back to what I was talking about, those, how do you have that negativity or positivity? How do you handle conversations? So those positive, and this goes into the personal when you're reflecting. How often are you putting that negative to you? How often should you be negative? You shouldn't. Don't be negative. The positive affirmations to yourself. If you need them, they're all over the internet. We can get you some. We have them. You know, they're there. You should use them. Make those positive statements in the morning. Do your goals, then positive affirmations. If you get that, put them into your routine. These are things, the tools in your toolbox that will constantly help. And as we say, 1% better. What are you using today that you didn't use yesterday? How did that help? And these items change, and it's okay to change because there are times that you have to give things up to move forward. And then, you know, one other item, how do you visualize when you're going into a situation? I visualize it all the time. As a Virgo, I visualize and run through scenarios in my head. What if it goes this way? What if it goes that way? How am I going to respond? What's going to happen? You know, why are you, instead of doing it after you got out of the conversation, so you're not ready for it, why aren't you preparing for the conversation? So if you know you're going into something that's more stressful, that's more of a trigger for you, how are you mentally preparing for that? And imagine how it can become a positive outcome for you. How can you handle it becoming a much more positive outcome? Maybe there's somebody there that's going to be there that you definitely don't want to encounter. Well, if you are actively having a good time and paying attention to where they are, maybe it's just avoiding them. And then you just still have a great time and you're not having any confrontations with them. Or set a limit on the time you're going to be there. You know, go in, make that appearance, have a positive and a wonderful time at the event, and then set your time frame, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, or if it's a 6 hour, whatever, maybe be there for 3 hours. Or why not go, leave, and go back? Who said you have to stay there for the whole time consecutively? Why can't you break it up to help yourself stay positive? So imagine how you can actually make it positive for yourself. These items can really, really, I think would really help you. And I'm not sure, do we have any questions right now? Any scenarios that anybody would like to actually um, share with us? No? Maybe we should go into actually an exercise then. So, what I'd like to do is actually write down on a piece of paper. Hopefully, everybody has their notebooks, but everybody that's been taking notes, let's take like 5 minutes and actually write down situations that are stressful, or, what are your common triggers of these items that we've been talking about this morning? Let's take 5 minutes and go, where are you having difficulty of staying positive? What type of reactions? Where are your negative reactions coming? We'll write it down in the chat, and let's take 5 minutes and then go, and then we'll come back and we'll see how everybody's doing, and if anybody wants to share. And maybe you've had a positive experience where you've actually done something like this. We'd love to hear from you too.
Okay. How did everybody do on that exercise? Let us know in the chat or raise your hand if you have any questions. I the one final thought that I wanted to discuss for a minute or two is Dan has been talking an awful lot about how your mind and negative self-talk and things like that. And I wanted to go into how what we think about is what we bring about. So when we're talking negative to ourselves, we're creating a negative environment just by allowing those words to come out of our mouth. You know, when we spell things, when we write things out, or when we speak out of our mouths, we are actually, it's spell work. We are creating with our expectations. What we expect is what we're going to get. So changing what we expect will change our reality. And it takes work. Every time you catch yourself speaking negative things, you must immediately cancel and delete and reword it into a more positive frame of mind, something that you want to bring forward. So that's what I want to end the call on today is what you think about, you bring about. So be mindful of what you're thinking and what you're speaking into existence, because that is your reality. So thank you everybody for attending. Buttons.